Welcome to Nested Subplots lecture. So a subplot can contain smaller nested subplots. And as an example, we have a simple nested subplots where both of them are actually subplots. So this one with the blue line is a subplot, and also the nested subplot here with the green line as well. Okay, so I'm going to be creating something very similar to this. So firstly, what we need to do is import the relevant modules, which are Matplotlib and NumPy. Okay, then I'm going to have plt.figure. And I'm just going to leave that empty and then have it equal to fig. Alright, then I'm going to have some data. So we'll have, let's say, z equals list range, and we'll do, let's say, 1 to 11. I'll keep it on the same line here. I'm going to have another list, so y equals, it's going to be an explicit list of 10 values. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 12, 15, 18, 20, and lastly 23. Okay, then we're going to have our first plot, so it's going to be ax1 equals fig dots, and we hit tab, so we have the add axis. That's the one that we want. Alright, then I'm going to, in the parentheses here, we'll have a list of float values, so it's going to be 0.1, 0.1, 1.5, and 0.9, say. And then we'll do plt.show for now. On that, and as you can see, I have an empty plot here. We haven't put any data in at the moment. So note the size, it's just one very large plot. Now the numbers here don't really matter too much at the moment. These numbers are more to do with the position of where it is relative to another subplot. So this is actually a subplot here, and it's these two numbers that are the most important when you're dealing with other subplots. These numbers here are to do with the actual dimensions of a subplot. So this one here has a 1.5 in terms of the width and a 0.9 in terms of the height. So let's say, for instance, I just want to reduce the width. I can put this down to, say, 1, and you can see now it's reduced in width. It's more narrow, or I can do 0.5, and it's even more narrow or less wide. Let's pick to 1.5. Let's say I want to change this to being a lot shorter, so I'll do 0.4, and it's only half as tall. Okay, so put that back to how it was before. So changing these numbers here, these two, won't make any difference at the moment because it's just to do with the position of this subplot relative to others. So this number here represents the left and right. This number here represents the up and down. And as I said before, this one is the width, and this one is the height. Okay, so let's just plot some data here. So we'll have ax1.plots, simple plot here, y, z, and we'll have, let's say, line width equals 4, and we'll have, let's say, color equals R for red, marker equals O for circle, and marker size equals, let's say, 14 on that. Okay, so we have our red line across. So note all the space that we have on the top and also on the bottom. So we can fill this up with some subplots, or nested subplots rather. So I'm going to have 2 here, and I'm going to have 2 here as well. So what I'm going to do is have ax2 equals fig dot add again with axis, and then we'll have here, let's say, 0.2, 0.6, 0.2, and 0.3. Well, that's, you can see you have a little tiny nested subplot here. So let's make this into a bar plot. So what I'm going to do is have ax2.bar, and then you hit shift and tab. You can see the various parameters here, so left, height, width, and so on. So I have here left, so it's going to be range 5 for the total number of 5 bars, and then we're going to have the data, so it's going to be height, it's going to be a list of, let's say, it can be any numbers, but there has to be a total of no more than 5. So 10, 20, 24, 15, and then 30. And then I have here, let's say, color equals G for green, and width equals 0.8, like so. Well, that's okay, great. So we have our data plotted in this bar plot here, but note that I only have these 2 float numbers here. I want to have numbers for all 5 of these bars, and I also want to have the X and Y labels and also a title here. So what we can do is we'll start off with the labels. So we'll have ax2, and then instead of doing X label, what you have to do is set underscore X label. And then we'll have here, of course, just capital X, then font size equal to, say, 12, and then semicolon to keep up the same line, ax2.set, likewise it's y label, capital Y, font size equal to 12. Well, that's okay. So we have our y and our x labels, great, and then we have our title. So here I'm just going to have ax2.set underscore title. It's going to be simply bar plots, and font size equals 14, then semicolon to keep it on the same line, and we'll have our xticks addressed here. So we're going to make them a little bit more realistic. So x2.set xticks, and that's going to have a range here for 5. Well, that's okay. So we have 0 to 4, but I could change it to, let's say, 1 to 6 instead, if you like. Okay, so let's put that back to 5 instead, like so. Alright, so moving on from that, let's say I want to have another one, and I'd like to have this next subplot, nested subplot, right here. So the same dimensions for this bar plots, but I want it to be right here, so on the right hand side. So all you're going to be doing is just changing one number. So we go here, x3 equals fig.add axis, and then square brackets. And what I'd like you to do is simply pause the video and see if you can create the same empty nested subplot right here. So where my cursor is. So pause the video and give that a try. Okay, so what you have to do is simply have 0 points, let's say, we'll do 5, and all the other numbers are exactly the same. So we want the same height, as in where it is in terms of its position here, but then we want the same width and height in terms of the dimensions. So 0.2 and 0.3, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to actually convert this into a heat map. So what we can do here is have ax3 dots, it's going to be imshow, and then we'll have mp.array, it's going to be in square brackets, y and z, dot t for transpose, and then we're going to have cmap equal to rainbow. Run that. Okay, so now we have our heat map, but what I also want is to have a color bar right here, a vertical color bar. So it's a little bit ambiguous as to what to do. You can't simply do plt dots, or rather fig dots color bar. It won't work like that. What you need to do is firstly have, let's say, hmap as our variable equal to the ax3 heat map, and then we'll do fig dots color bar, and then simply hit shift and tab, and we want this one here mappable, and also ax, those two parameters. So mappable, and that's going to be simply hmap, and then ax equals ax3. Okay, great. It doesn't look too pretty, but it does get the job done. Alright, so let's say we want to have 2 more of these nested subplots right here on the bottom. So what I'd like you to do is have x4 equal to fig.add axis, and then I'd like you to put the positions in for this particular axis, so x4, and I'd like you to have it right here. So it's going to be the same dimensions as this in terms of the height and also in terms of the width, and it's going to be around here, so just after the number 15 and a little bit above this line here. And I would like this to be a horizontal bar plot, so instead of it being the vertical bar plot, I want it to be a horizontal one. So what you need to do is, if you recall, a horizontal bar plot has a bar h instead of just bar, so it's a bar h, and instead of being a left, it's going to be a bottom here, and this is going to instead be the width, and this here is going to be the heights. So that's the only real difference. So remember, bar h, then bottom, then width, and then heights. So I'd like you to be able to put in the relevant numbers here for the position and the dimensions, and have it right here. So pause the video and give that a go. Okay, hopefully you've given that a try. Hope that wasn't too hard. Should have been quite easy. So all I'm going to do is just simply copy this line here. Right click, copy, and then I'm simply going to have this here. So ax3 or ax4, excuse me. Actually, I'll put that. Makes more sense to have it here. So ax4. Then I'm simply going to paste it here. Okay, and I'm going to have this as a bar H, this as bottom, this as width, and this as height. And then I'm going to change this color just to something that makes a bit more sense. So we'll have Magneta, and we'll keep the data the same here. And then lastly, we'll add in the position and dimensions. So that's going to be 1.1 for the left or right position, and then we're going to have a, let's say, 0.15 for being quite low down. And then we're going to have the same dimensions as the bar plot here. So it's going to be 0.2 and lastly 0.3. Like that. And as you can see, I have my horizontal bar plot here. Okay, so lastly, let's say we want to have a rectangular plot here consisting of various triangles. So what I like is a scatter plot of triangles in a rectangular nested subplot. So we'll simply go here and have ax5 equals fig dot add axis, just like before. Then in the square brackets here, fill in the appropriate position and dimensions of what we want as a rectangular nested subplots. And what you're going to have is the ax5.scatter plot. So shift and tab, you can see the various parameters here. So x, y, s, c, marker, cmap, and so on. Okay, so pause the video and give that a go. Okay, hopefully you were able to give that a try. So what I'm going to do here is firstly start with the dimensions. I'm just going to comment this line out here. So comment that, and we'll have here, so it's going to be in the same position as the horizontal bar plot here. So it's going to be 1.1, and then I'm going to have, let's say, 0.48 for now, then 0.48 for the dimension, and 0.15. So it's going to be, relatively speaking, the width and the height. Okay, and then I'm going to just run that, see what we'll get. Alright, so that's not too bad, but it's a little bit too close to this. It's actually touching the top of the horizontal bar. So I'm going to make this a little bit higher up. So let's say we have 0.52 here. Okay, that's perfect. And then lastly, I'm going to put in the data for the scatter plots. So we'll put it in here simply, let's say, we'll do z or z, then y, s equals 300, c equals, let's say, we'll do blue, and marker equals, for a triangle, a caret sign. I'll just scroll down so you can see the output in totality. Okay, great, so we have our blue triangles in the scatter plot. Alright, so that concludes my lecture. I hope it's been insightful, and I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks.